All right, guys, welcome back. Good morning. It's me, Daniel, with VintageMagic.com. Hope you guys are having a safe time at your homes. It is a very interesting time we have right here. So I had a really good conversation with my friend Drew. I met him a while, I think about a year or two, about 2 years ago. And we met in New York. Went to the Bearded Dragon with our friend Ted. And those were the days. I want to tell you guys, like, I never met Drew before, never met Ted before. Ted's a patron, and we just hit it off. You know, we ended up having dinner somewhere in Times Square at some Italian restaurant, played old school games, and drove around and looked at some old cards. And man, it was great to meet some, new friends, and play some Magic and really have. I mean, that's crazy, right? We're living in the world right now where we're not allowed to do any of that stuff. And it's going to really test our ability to be patient and kind to, each other, because the people at home right now, you're probably a little bit annoyed sometimes. You want to have some space. Try to find ways to take care of yourself, give each other space, but also spend time together. But yeah, this video, I want to talk about a conversation that I had with Drew. So hold on tight. It's all about liquidity. Drew and I were talking about how liquid is Magic the Gathering. Stay tuned.
Vintage Magic. Game, collect, invest. For more information about our consulting and professional services, visit vintagemagic.com.
All right, guys, and we're back. So Drew and I were talking online on Facebook Messenger last night about the liquidity of Magic the Gathering and how that would look. And I'm going to stick with probably the liquidity of older cards and oddball items and artwork, misprints, stuff like that in vintage Magic era type of stuff. 93, 94. Artwork can go to modern times too, I guess. But let's talk about some of that, because the newer stuff, I mean, it's, you probably talk to Rudy about that more. I have my opinions about it, which I can share with you guys later. But let's stick with the older stuff first. So liquidity, let's define liquidity in my opinion. Not just opinion, but in kind of like what the stock people look at, or the business side. Liquidity is your ability, in my opinion, my research is your ability to have enough cash flow or assets that are able to kind of protect you in times of need. It's also your ability to buy things. Like if you wanted to buy something, how liquid are you so you could basically purchase something? It's kind of like you can look it up yourself on the definition chart. I'm not reading the definition, but the way I summed it up was, if you're a business that has great cash flow, not just stuck with all assets that are really hard to sell, when there's opportunities to buy, you're able to buy things, you're able to help with downtimes. Let's say sales are down, catastrophes like this pandemic happened. Things are not going to just fail instantly, if that makes sense, crumble within a week or a month, So liquidity to me is that. Now let's talk about like stocks or assets. Like stocks is really interesting. You can go online right now to your Robinhood app or your TD Ameritrade, whatever, and you can basically trade, General Electric or Apple or Amazon right now, back and forth, and it doesn't really matter what you do. You can probably trade quite a bit of shares. I'm not sure the exact amount of shares, the limited shares you can have to trade, but let's face it, if you have that much money, you wouldn't be watching this channel. Probably make your own channel. Probably be name is Bill or Warren. That's the reality, is that we can trade these assets every single day, every moment, and someone's going to buy it. There's a bid and an ask, right? Someone's asking for the item, you're offering a certain price. So let's talk about real estate. Real estate, there's people that will always want to buy a house. Now, it depends on what price of the house, depends on the location, the school district, whatever, right? The upgrades, whatever. But there's always interest and demand. So if you look at this principle, fundamental economic principles, I look at liquidity as part of this buying mechanism of demand and also sales. There's only two things really: demand or sales. Does it have demand, and will it sell at a price that the offering is? So, to the Magic the Gathering topic and older cards. Let's break it down in terms of graded cards, because that's probably the number one thing I get asked all the time. I say this all the time, and I'll say it again. Graded Magic the Gathering cards are not that liquid. Now, liquidity also, let's also be clear, is being able to buy something and then sell it for relatively the same market price within a very quick moment, let's say. I'll just use that as a benchmark. For example, if you were to buy some Apple stock right now, you probably could sell it for the same price that you bought it for if maybe it goes up in the next few seconds or minute, whatever, right? Let's talk about real estate. Real estate, generally, if you bought a house for $300,000, you could probably sell it for $300,000 if something happened the next week or month or whatever, right? Generally. Now, there's going to be transaction costs. I'm not going to account for that. Real estate, there's a lot of transaction costs. It's going to cost you a lot of money to resell that. Stocks, very different. There's very little transaction costs. For you to sell it on eBay yourself, there might be, PayPal and eBay fees, right? There's a transaction cost. You might have to pay taxes on stuff if you made a profit. So there's lots of little transaction costs, but I'm not going to go over that. Assume benchmark, I'd probably say for cards, about 15% transaction costs, not including your time, all that stuff. Okay? Transaction costs, not profit. So in Magic, in graded cards, you can't just buy like a Alpha 9 Lotus, okay, a BGS 9 Alpha Lotus. Let's say you bought it for $75K, which is a good price. I think a fair price. 75 or 65K. Let's say 75K in this case. And then you go off and then want to sell it the next day. You're probably going to get a sale 10% less than what you bought it for if it was on a public auction. The main reason why I say that is because everybody that watched the auction is like, this guy needs money. Why would I want to pay more, right? And that happens a lot during a time like a pandemic where if an item doesn't sell, it's definitely not going to rise in value. Because in the flip side, if it was a hot market, a really hot market, then people would basically be like, man, I missed that auction. I want to bid higher and I want to pay more, right? And that does happen, especially like last 2018, 2017. Every car, a lot of reserveless cards are just skyrocketing, and it doesn't matter what you paid. So having liquidity, in the graded card market doesn't exist because it basically is a very difficult market to just resell quickly, fast. Now, it definitely shows up big time in this situation. In a pandemic situation, or if you really need cash right now, if you got that $30,000 quad plus Power 9 card that you bought in 2018, 2017, I don't know, you're not going to get it right now. It's just the way it is. Will you get half? Yeah, maybe. People are asking half in some cases. Well, what if yours is a quad plus to the 15th power? Does that mean you're going to get it? A higher price? Actually, if you had a really high-end quality card, actually you might get a higher price if you didn't do a public auction. So graded cards is unique. If you don't do public auctions and you have time, you could find a singleton buyer, a buyer who will pay you the price that you paid or more, maybe a trade, not just cash. That happens. Excuse me. So that's kind of my thoughts on graded cards. Now, you'll probably say, well, what about small graded cards? Like the little Alpha Rata Ruin or Beta Control Magic or, I don't know, revised rares. I don't know, something like that. Okay, fair question. What about those graded cards? Those graded cards will probably be one-offs, honestly. Liquidity-wise, I think they all go down anyway. They're slow to sell. They are more related towards, call them more like index movers with the index. If that means that if the economy, if the state of the industry, if people are investing in reserve lists or targeted cards and there's just hotness in that era, there's different things that are happening, like, another format happens, I don't know, then you'll see increased values in those cards in general and then more collectability. But in any time, graded cards are tough to move. All right, let's talk about ungraded cards. Obviously, most people have ungraded cards in their decks. Players, they have played cards, near mint cards, you have, I don't know, cards that are inked, whatever, right? So, liquidity-wise for those kind of cards, also in most cases are difficult in times of need, but in general, they generally are easier to move for the same value that you've had when times are good. So, let me give an example. Like Force of Will. Force of Will is Alliance's card. I think it's hovering around $75 to $80, something like that. And I remember this card being like $50. And now maybe it hit $100 at one point. But in a way, anybody will buy Force of Wills, right? Revised dual lands. I keep saying revised dual lands will drop. Well, they will drop. But liquidity also means will they sell for a relative price in comparison to what you bought. Some people argue and say, well, Dan, hold up. Liquidity is if it will sell. Okay, fair enough. Because if it's a liquid, is it sellable? Okay, yes, all Magic the Gathering cards, all Magic the Gathering items are sellable. But for what price? At what price is a liquidity make any sense for the seller, right? The seller won't sell. I'm not going to sell an Alpha 9 Black Lotus for $25K. The buy list currently on, card key number ABU Games is like, I think 25 or 30K or whatever, right? Why would I sell a mint ungraded Alpha Lotus for that price? Why would you do that? Desperation? Cash? Okay. But that's the thing, is you have to understand there's always a buy price, but what is the actual, what would get you closest to what you paid for, if not more? So I'm kind of examining it in a two-part perspective. You guys can look at it as, well, is Magic sellable? Yes. You can always buy Magic and you can always sell it, but will you lose your shirt every single time? It can happen. Back to ungraded cards. Ungraded cards are kind of interesting because there's so many conditions that are involved. There's near mint, there's played, heavily played, moderately played, lightly played. Everybody uses the scale. It used to be very fine. It's just like crazy, right? Then you go to the grading world, you have all these gem mint, pristine, all these things. I invite you to go to the website, vintagemagic.com. There's an article about the grading standards, about the PSA versus BGS in the investor articles or something. I will put the link of it below of our website. Check it out. Go to the articles. A lot of fun articles about that. But read up on the conditions because they all matter. Because the reality is this. If you have an item that's really played, it's going to go down and up pretty rapidly also in bad times. But at a certain point, a played card will just be a floor price. Now, just like a mint card, okay, near mint card, whatever you want to call it, in Card Kingdom or whatever, in an ungraded piece, there is a floor price. However, it has the opportunities to rise exponentially. So even though a card may rise really high, and then you're like, man, it went down quite a bit from the previous high, it still is at a high, decent price relative to its played price. I don't really have the data to research and back up while looking at this, but I want you to kind of examine this yourself. Like, when you have a near mint card, you have more ability to leverage premiums when there's good times. And you also are able to still get a better than crap fire sale price at bad times. Make sense? Like, if you were liquidating something and you're like, man, my cards are all HP played, crap played, you're going to get very little money. You're going to get the bottom barrel player price, half price, whatever, right? Now, if you have near mint cards, quality cards, a collector, investor, whatever player will be like, man, even though it's bad times, your cards are nicer than others. And I'm going to still give you a premium in relativity towards the market today. That goes with real estate. If you always had, a house on Rodeo Drive, it may not, You know, it was a house on Rodeo Drive. It may not be the best looking house, but it's a house on Beverly Hills, Rodeo Drive. It's always going to have demand and worth something because of the land. You know, maybe you added other like stuff to it, right? So remember, people care about condition. Collectors, players even care about condition. So I think this conversation is kind of shifted towards, okay, Magic is able to sell at any time. We know that. But how do you actually maximize and get that dollar? Well, if you're buying into cards, try to get the best value. That's the word, the V word, the value word. Meaning best condition, the best quality. Condition and quality are about the same, but quality means in like the overall eye appeal too, right? Also, are your cards inked? Now, I talked about inked a minute ago when I mentioned earlier in the video. Inked and like cards that are just, you know, they have crap all over them, dirt, those tend to sell worse. You have to think about, is it liquid when I try to sell it long term? Probably not. When it's inked, you're dealing with a card where it's going to go to only a specific niche type of player minded, probably not collector, who just doesn't care and just wants to play with the card. So you're limiting your buyer pool. So as you are buying cards during this time or any time, you have to look at your buyer. You got to think as a buyer and a seller, right? If I'm buying and investing $10,000 in these cards, if time goes rough, what will it actually go to? And times go good, what can I go? What's the potential? Can I grade the cards? Is the quality, is the value there for me? Is it there? All right, next thing that Drew and I talked about was interesting was misprints and oddities and weird stuff like Magic memorabilia. And I got to tell you, that's what makes Magic unique is oddities, misprints. But in times of need, times are tough, no way, no way. Those go down like crazy in the sense that if someone had to liquidate them, had to sell out of them fast, and the right buyers don't just show up and bid on the auction or Facebook auction or whatever. You're not doing the kind of the singleton transaction, you know, collector to collector, which you'll probably get the same price or get a little bit lower. You will see a tremendous drop. We're talking about every type of card in this realm. Misprints, miscuts, weird bleach color, whatever, right? There's all those things. Unless it's like super rare and it's one of a kind, everybody world wants it, yeah, it's going to go down. It's going to go down like crazy. Because in this time of need, when there's a pandemic, and remember, it's extra income. It's a niche. Magic is a niche. Then you have a niche of a niche because the cards are miscut. Or you might have Summer Magic, which are collected. That actually, surprisingly, Summer Magic cards, as you know, we sell a lot of them on our eBay. And you can email me privately, contact me. I got to say that it's highly collected. People collect it from all over the world. I've had collectors all over, anywhere from like Australia to Asia to, you know, wherever, right? Europe, everywhere collects it. They like the colors. They like the set collecting potential. They like it for their decks, their commander decks, whatever. So this idea that like this misprint, Summer Magic, was going to just be worth nothing as more came out, I think it's wrong because people will start collecting it more and still start wanting to build sets, make global sets, collections, whatever, right? Some people actually collect 4 of a kind of a card. It's crazy. Or they collect the graded ones. So certain misprints and oddities, you know, they fluctuate, right? Now, prices are going to fluctuate. Don't get me wrong. Blue Hurricane has fluctuated over the years. Was once a 5-figure card to now 5K card to a 3K card at one point to 4K. I mean, it's gone everywhere, right? 6K card. But this idea that it's going to go to zero, I don't think it's going to happen. I think, Pat, too much people, like I said, demand. Too many people in the world want to own the most iconic misprint of them all, the Blue Hurricane. So it's kind of like the Black Lotus of our, you know, our Power 9 reserve list stuff. The Blue Hurricane is the most iconic misprint in a way, right? So keep that in mind as if you're buying or selling these cards. If you get the most iconic misprints or the most, like Summer Magic is more frequently purchased, right? There's more data. Then you I have ability to actually know, hey, I'm buying into this at the right price. If you're buying something that's a one-off misprint, really one of those that was just found by randomly, it's hard because if you paid an expensive price, and even if you pay, like let's say the guy wants 20K, you pay 10K because the guy needs money. That 10K that you paid for that really unique item could just be worth only 2K to the average consumer. So don't underestimate that, because people don't understand, like, not everybody, most people in Magic do not give a rat's butt about misprints. A lot of people don't. Or alters. All right, so let's talk about like alters on cards, artwork, sketches, that realm. That's the last part of this. In the liquidity market, in liquidity-wise, I don't think those are, I think alters, sketches, and artwork are very illiquid in a way. Meaning, you have to do a lot. You have to sell them in the right places. You got to find the right buyer and to actually get your money back. Now, do I think you could fire sale anything and get money? Yes, absolutely. You could always sell a piece of artwork for anything. I think the floor is like, if you had a Magic art and it was $200, anybody will buy a Magic art for $200 in terms of an original art, right? Not sketches. Sketches, $50. You get a $50 sketch, I think everybody would buy it, right? But if you start wanting your premiums, sketches at $250, $400, $500 a sketch, a pencil sketch, and then you're starting to go artworks like $1,000 to $2,000 to $3,000 a piece, just basic pieces, right? Now, if you're talking about alpha pieces, they're going to cost you 5 figures. It doesn't matter who the hell what you have. So, don't worry about that. The primo higher end stuff, and if you have alpha artwork, if you have old school artwork, contact me. VintageMagic.com. Find me on VintageMagic.com. Hit me an email, Daniel@VintageMagic.com. I will talk to you more about that, because it's so rare, but you're not going to lose your shirt in the sense that like other items, because again, remember with artwork and sketches, they're one of one. It's better for those instances, for liquidity, to sell those as direct buyers, not to auction them off. Seriously, the reason why is you can get more action in terms of you have more price control, because you get able to set your floor price and not let some bidding. Because what if the bidding goes bad in a bad economy, right? Then you're missing out potentially of 10 to 20 to 30, 40, 50%, maybe 100%. So it's willing to pay double. You don't know unless you make your own price, and then you go with that and sell it as it is. Altered cards. Well, I love altered cards, but it's very wild. And the reason why I say that is because there's a sense of nostalgia when someone buys altered cards. It could be a Christopher Rush Alpha Lotus, like a Black Lotus on a forest that we have on our eBay store. It could be like Ron Spencer does some alters. Therese Nielsen does some crazy alters back in the day. You go to those shows, the Magic shows. Everybody does alters. Right? So it's cool. It's cool to own alters. It's awesome to own alters. But the question really remains, right? Is alters liquid? Well, no, not really in terms of speed of sale. Always find a buyer for it, but I almost treat it like art. In a way, depending on how rare and how cool your altar was, like let's say it wasn't just a cheap little black Sharpie, like like a demonic tutor with a mustache, like me, mustache of a Daniel Che mustache. That's not going to go for as much as a cool altar hand painted by Doug Schuler, something fancy, right? Or even certain altarists like Eric Klug, probably the best altarist that's not a Magic artist. Eric's awesome, man. I have a bunch of altars from him. I love his altars. Understand that certain star power, certain artists are just going to command better prices in the altars. That's the way it goes. So if you want a potential higher sale, you're going to have to get a better quality altar, better name altarist. Unfortunately, just buy it from some random altarist from your local shop doesn't necessarily mean good resale value later on. You might just get the value of what the card is worth at that moment, if that. One thing I've actually forgot was artist proofs. Drew and I were talking about it. Artist proofs are very interesting. It's something that deserves an entire video by itself. But liquidity-wise, it's also, I would rank as one of the most not liquid item. Because in a way, in the back of these artist proofs, they're basically, for those of you who don't know, they're a magic card and then back is white. And they're given to the artist as collateral for their job, and they still do it, you know, for their work for Wizards of the Coast. Generally, you get about 50 of them, and now you get foil ones or something, supposedly. So the reality is these proofs are a piece of art because they're like a blank canvas on the back of the card. And so when they're painted or you have them painted, you can have them pencil sketch, you can have a pen sketch, lots of different things, which I love artist proofs. I think they're great. But the problem with artist proofs is that they're personalized, if that makes sense. A lot of people that buy artist proofs like to interact with the artist. They like to go to Magic Fest and say, hey, I bought this from you. I got this signed by Doug Schuler. I met Dan Frazier. I got the mocks. I don't want to just buy it on eBay and then like, oh, I never met the artist. Some people are like that. Some people like to have their cat, their dog, their dinosaur, whatever, their kids in the artist proof, and that's personalized. Is that liquid? Is that liquid to have a personal item artist proof sell? Probably not as much. So artist proofs are unique that way, where they're nice, they're like a piece of art, but at the same time, they're not liquid. I treat them almost like a piece of artwork because in a way, in order to find the right buyer, you have to find them at the right person who enjoys that art, who appreciates that. Maybe they played that card before. And they also have to appreciate artist proofs. A lot of people think artist proofs suck compared to like altered cards, in the sense that people rather have, an altered demonic tutor, an altered Sarah Angel, or whatever, right? An altered Black Lotus, a real card, rather than having the artist proof with a painted back of the Black Lotus. I would rather have the painted back of the Black Lotus than the actual altar of the Black Lotus. But some people, don't appreciate that because the thing is, artist proofs are not allowed right now in tournament play. I think they might be allowed in Commander. I have to check that. But in some old school formats too, leagues allow that. But remember, in tournament play, artist proofs with a white back are not allowed. So I think that's a big reason why they haven't reached the respect that way yet. They're like considered, they're not real Magic cards. But by no means are they not cool. They are one of the coolest things. When you go back to Magic Fest, check them out. All artists probably have them. Say hi to them. Pick up an artist proof. Get a sketch. Doesn't matter. It's awesome, right? They're awesome. All right, guys. I know this video is really long. What do you guys think? You guys learn something from it? Do you guys think that this liquidity mess makes any sense? The reality, sum it all up, is Magic is liquid. It is liquid. But it depends on, is there a buyer for the items? And, as you as a seller willing to lower that price, that the buyer will come and be like, oh yeah, I'll take my money and I'll buy at your price, at that lower price, right? Or you're too high and they just don't want to pay that much. That happens all the time. Is there a demand during like rough times? Is the value of the cards that you're buying, the quality, the condition, the centering, the corners, the edges, the surface, whatever, is the whole collection you're buying worth it? Sealed product is the same way. I didn't really talk about that. Sealed product is also very, very, it's liquid, but it goes down. I think sealed product is a little bit more stable in the sense that it's stabilized, right? You always have it. It does go down and up, but everybody wants it. There's always the demand, right? But remember, is the quality of the box you're getting good? Is the packs, the booster packs searched? You're getting it from a reputable source. What's the provenance behind that? So many details when you're buying stuff. All right, guys, comment below. If you haven't subscribed, hit subscribe. I'll have some more videos this week. You guys be safe. We'll talk soon. Thank you, guys. Hey everyone, it's Daniel Chang with VintageMagic.com. In this video, I want to run through our consultation service on VintageMagic.com. So what's really exciting to me about the consultation process is meeting you. I've met so many incredible people in the Magic the Gathering industry all over the world, and this consultation process is the key part to a successful working relationship. Getting hold of me is very simple. You could call or email me. We'll talk more about your needs. From all that information I gather in our call, typically about an hour long, I'm going to determine the best solution for you. So because we have such a suite of services that we offer, I'm going to sit down with a follow-up call, and then we're going to go off and determine what the best path is. I have experience in handling conversations in regards to large collections of artwork, sets of cards, either if it's graded or ungraded, raw cards. I also have dealt with collections with lots of misprints and oddities. Altered cards, sketch cards, and artist proofs are also one of my specialties. My experience in Magic Gathering has gone to any level of collecting you may have. I look forward to working with you.
Vintage Magic. Game, collect, invest. For more information about our consulting and professional services, visit vintagemagic.com.